Hi, I'm Terry Kimball, President and CEO here at the Chandler Chamber. And today I have with me Representative Julie Willoughby. Welcome.
Thank you.
Julie is running for her to retain her seat in Legislative District 13 at the Arizona House of Representatives. So welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yes. So Julie, tell me why you want to run again.
So I have been working at getting this position since about 2018. I have learned so much along the way. This is my first session in. The first session has a huge learning curve to it. It's like being dumped into a country you haven't been to, that you don't know the etiquette and you don't know the language. So besides the learning curve, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of legislation that was left on the table from the last session that I think we can reevaluate and move forward. There's always water concerns that we need to be addressing, and that's a moving target. With technology moving as well into AI and the chips and all of the energy is going to be taking, those are things that we need to take into account. And representing Chandler is going to be very important in those areas because we have Intel and those companies that are really, really involved in that, especially with the CHIPS Act and the additional funding and appropriations that they've received. So maintaining that we have someone that has a good relationship and understanding of the process of what Chandler's trying to do as a city and build that relationship as a legislator, which I've already started to do. So much of legislating isn't just a great idea that you think you want to implement. It's partly the relationships that you build and the way that you communicate with the others down at the Capitol. And since I've started that, I've been able to build good relationships. I just want to continue that work, especially for the city. I think it's going to be a big deal.
Great. So what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the district within the next couple of years?
The growth with Intel. We're going to have needs for more housing. As Intel grows, their employment grows, and then our city grows. So making sure we have proper infrastructure for that, the roads, the water, the power, and then also public safety is going to be huge in that, because as our city grows, that will stretch our resources thinner, and making sure that we're bolstering that and looking to the future and being prepared for that, not reactive and being too late when we see people maybe get harmed. And I'm a huge supporter of the Chandler Police. I love what they do. They're very innovative, in especially a lot of the internet crimes. I've worked very closely with them, and they're one of the front runners in the entire state for that department, and making sure that we keep those individuals secured in their position, and just making sure that Chandler is prepared for the growth influx that we're going to see.
So the Chandler Chamber represents about 172,000 employees here in Chandler. How will you foster a positive relationship with the Chandler Chamber?
I really believe everything comes down to communication and keeping a strong line of communication open. So I know this last session, anytime a bill came up that I thought would affect Chandler, I reached out to both the city and to the chamber, because sometimes even those thought processes don't align, but to get everybody's feedback, because I am representing you down there, I want to make sure that your voices are truly heard. So anything that I think that comes up, I always reach out to get your stance, to make sure that you guys have a seat at the table, even if it's not a true seat, it's at least a virtual seat through me. But I think that it's important to just keep that line of communication. Regardless of who you're communicating with, the communication is important for the growth of the city and the state.
So this last legislative session, we know that there were over 1,700 bills that were dropped. What are some of your two top priority or policy issues that you're going to work on if reelected?
So I've actually started working on two that are very important to me. So AI being the progressive as progressed as quickly as it has, we're not prepared as a state to answer those questions. So I've had several different stakeholder meetings with the AI, the Tech Council, the Attorney General's office, the Maricopa County office, and the police department to make sure that what we're doing is not inhibiting business growth and the use of AI, but still protecting youth, because we see that the youth are very susceptible to anything related to AI and social media, and keeping them safe at the same time. So that's one of my big pushes, to make sure that we have clear definitions on what AI is, how it should be used and protected, and who should be protected from it, I guess I should say. Another one is expanding what we can do within healthcare, looking at the scopes of practice for different lines and changing those as needed. We haven't changed the scope of practice for MAs in a very long time. I passed a bill this last session that allowed MAs to do more, which alleviates pressure in the primary care doctor's office. If the primary care doctor doesn't have to read all of the labs directly to a patient if they're normal, why do we spend so much time doing that? So let's expand some scopes. Let's look at what we've been doing for years and look at it from a new perspective, not just the way we've always been doing it. So those are the progressive things next year I want to do.
So explain to everybody who, because you're a nurse by trade,
Yes.
tell everybody what an MA is.
Oh, I apologize. A medical assistant, yes.
Just to make sure so
Thank
that people are clear. So as politics become more partisan, how will you work with others that you may not agree with? And what's your plan to bring a more unified political environment?
To be honest with you, the division is not as bad as it is portrayed in the media. When you're down there, people are much more open and friendly than I had anticipated them to be. I think it's our own perspectives that we're projecting on people when we go down there because of what we hear in the news and social media. Everybody is actually very friendly. I worked a lot with a lot of individuals that are Democrats, and they come with great ideas and a different perspective. If you're only listening to the people that have the same opinion as you, you're not getting the full perspective of everybody. And we know that our city and our district is very diverse, and it's important to have a lot of different perspective. So continuing those type of relationships, I think, will be big. I also am looking forward to the next session, because coming in when I didn't have all the same training that the other members did, and I see some kind of little holes that's come up. So I've taken it upon myself to reach out to the new people that are coming in that have made it through the primary, to do like a handout with them about education processes, just the processes, so they can start getting ahead of that and be prepared when January comes and they do take office, that it's not on day one so much information overload. They have had time to learn and ask questions, taking groups down to the Capitol to show them the processes and educate them. So hopefully we can even grow the next line of individuals organically that will take those offices and positions regardless of what party they are.
Great. So fiscal responsibility is very important. How will you maintain fiscal responsibility and priorities and prioritize some of the smart allocation of monies?
So that's a harder conversation because I'm not always in those conversations down at the Capitol. But fiscal responsibility is always huge, making sure that we have a balanced budget. What do we need, and what is the state responsible for? And honestly, having a budget deficit last year helped identify where we did have those holes and those gaps. And I think just digging a little bit even deeper into those this year to see if there's anywhere else that we need to maybe scale back, or anywhere that we need to bolster up, move the monies appropriately, is something that I'm willing to work on again if put back on appropriations. Yeah.
So water is a big issue for the state of Arizona, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but do you support or oppose reducing the 100-year water supply requirement? And how do you propose that we balance new development with some of our water supply limitations?
So I know that the city of Chandler and many of the prior council members have taken that very responsibly here. And we are one of the envies of the other cities because we have been so responsible with the water and the planning for us. Reducing the 100-year is not something that I think would be good for us right now, but we do need to find a way for new developments to kind of come into that, and that's a collaborative conversation. And it's very dependent on where you're at, where you're building, the size of it, the city that it already has the infrastructure for it and what we need to do. So those kind of questions would have to be very specific to the situation that we're speaking of, because a one-size-fits-all is just not going to work.
So I know we've had a short period of time. We've tried to cover a lot of different subjects here. Is there something else that you feel is important that the Chandler voters need to know about you, or policies, or why they should vote for you?
So I like to say that I'm not a politician, and I mean that very seriously. I'm not a politician. I'm a nurse. That's what I've done. That's what I love. But I do want to become a statesman. I want to be somebody that represents the people, that does the job, and then goes back to the career that they love. And that's my goal. This is my moment to do public service in a different way than I've ever been able to do before. And I want to continue doing that in a very common sense way that benefits the most possible, that still streamlines as we move forward in the state and makes us attractive for businesses to come to, while still protecting the family feel that Arizona has. That's very important to me because I have a young family and I want them to be happy and successful as they grow up. And just seeing Arizona be fruitful, I think, is huge. And being able to communicate with other individuals, regardless of party. I don't play politics. I just go down and try to do the work, and that's kind of who I am. I've always been a worker bee. So,
Great. Representative Julie Willoughby, running for House of Representatives in Legislative District 13. Thank you for joining us.
thank you.